This series has been really interesting and fun, and I don't think by any stretch the Mavericks are a lock to win Game 6 now that they are up 3-2 in the series after winning Game 5 on the road tonight. But the Mavericks have just put themselves in prime position with how they constructed the team heading into the year, and then big-time trade pieces at the deadline like Daniel Gafford and PJ Washington, who was shooting like 1,000% from the corners in the series, have come through, and Luka Doncic played better compared to Game 4. He was struggling, he was clearly laboring, but mustered the strength tonight to, get to the rim a bit more. I thought his approach offensively was a lot better, being more aggressive, getting downhill. He only shot 2 free throws, but I felt like he was just getting into the paint, or the Thunder would put 2 on the ball. And, the Mavericks shot 14 of 35 from 3. Meanwhile, on the other end, I think just one big problem with the Oklahoma City Thunder in this series in general, and if it wasn't for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander superhero powers taking over Game 4, is that one of the best shooting teams in the NBA is not shooting like one of the best teams in the NBA. Heading into tonight, Chet Holmgren, 26.7% from 3 on nearly 4 attempts a game, and I think the Chet Holmgren equation of this is very important because he is kind of the guy who was the cheat code for the Thunder with their drive and kick style, getting open threes, drive and kick. Well, that big man, whether it's Daniel Gafford or Derek Lively, isn't in rotation as much because I don't think they are as worried about Chet making a bunch of threes as opposed to giving up driving lanes to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, giving up driving lanes to Jalen Williams. By the way, Luka Doncic, whenever he's been on Jalen Williams, has been playing really well in this series on the defensive end. Jalen Williams is shooting 40% from the field. Well, heading into tonight, they haven't updated the stats afterwards, but they are seeing a crowd constantly. And really, with Shai, he has just been making incredibly tough shots in this series. I feel like it's not the usual, I'm going to get to the paint or 12 feet in and take a nice, turnaround 12-footer. He's making tough runners. He is running into guys and doing the thing where you run into the guy and throw up a shot and it goes in, like he had one tonight in the third quarter. But he's just making tough shots all over the place, and he's averaging nearly 32 points a game doing it. And tonight, he only shot 6 free throws. And I think the Mavericks, for the most part, he's shooting nearly 9 attempts per game in this series, but I don't feel like there are any of the usual, the Mavericks just don't know how to guard Shai without fouling. I feel like Shai has had to earn those free throws, and I feel like the Mavericks have a nice game plan, just not being as worried about some of the Thunder's shooters like Lou Dort. I know Lou Dort shot 40% from 3 this year, but you'll definitely take 8 attempts from 3 from Lou Dort and 4 of 11 from the field overall. Isaiah Joe, which was the big wild card, the starting lineup change, only shot 2 for 8, picked up quick fouls early. That didn't work out as well, and then when Josh Giddey came in, he had 11 points, but he was still a -3, and the Mavericks just did not care. Whenever they were in the half court, Josh Giddey had some nice buckets in transition. And while the Mavericks were strategically, I feel at least, choosing who they would rather have shoot the 3 ball, I still feel like they scrambled really well. They still contested very well. There was a possession in the fourth quarter where Lou Dort kind of pump faked himself out of a few attempts, and Derrick Jones Jr. was flying all over the place after the Thunder were swinging the ball all over the court to try to get an open 3, and the Mavericks were rotating well. Luka was sliding his feet really well. I also feel like, I know Kyrie Irving was only 5 of 11 and once again had a very subpar game shooting the ball, but I feel like there was still more of an emphasis tonight to get him involved offensively at least. And, he made timely baskets when the Mavericks needed it. Like he had a corner 3 when the Thunder were making a run. PJ Washington came to life in the fourth quarter, and he's been fantastic for the Mavericks. The Mavericks killed the Thunder on the offensive glass tonight with 9 offensive rebounds, but also finished their defensive possessions with the board. Out-rebounded the Thunder 51-40. I do wonder if Mark Daigneault would be more inclined to start Cason Wallace in Isaiah Joe's spot, just because I feel like Isaiah Joe, while he is, solid within the team concept of the Thunder defensively, I just feel like Cason Wallace is just a better defender. And also, while Isaiah Joe is clearly the better shooter and the deep range shooter, Cason Wallace is very good in the corners, and I just like his decision making and his ability to attack a closeout better. I feel like he'd be more steadier. And then you bring Isaiah Joe off the bench just to, keep him in a nice rhythm, because he's been used to coming off the bench, even though, Mark has done stuff like start Isaiah Joe in the second half. Maybe you start Cason Wallace, and that way you can have, an extra body to defend Kyrie Irving or Luka Doncic. But bottom line is, one of the skeleton keys of the Thunder's offense, and Chet Holmgren was one of my videos early in the season, he's shooting 1 of 5 from 3. He's been working his ass off on the defensive end, but offensively, when your cheat code is based around your crazy shooting ability as a big, everything just gets a little bit tougher for the Thunder. Chet has to drive an extra dribble or two to make some tough shots. He's still shooting 50% from the floor, but Chet at his best, the Thunder are just eating up the space that's created by Chet Holmgren's three-point shooting. And right now, it just seems like Daniel Gafford's chilling on the left block or the right block or whatever corner Holmgren's in, whatever wing three-pointer, whatever side of the three-point line Chet Holmgren's on. Lively or Gafford are making more of a priority to just protect the backside, and they're just letting Chet fire away, and he hasn't made them pay yet. Meanwhile, some of the Mavs non-shooters, like Derrick Jones Jr., just started out hot tonight, and the Mavericks just got out to a good rhythm early. And sometimes that be the breaks in the playoffs. Because Mark Daigneault mentioned it a few times, I did like a good chunk of the threes the Thunder got, but it also just felt like the Mavericks, in a way, were kind of willing to live with the results of the defense they were playing, and they were really doing a good job of making Shea finish over the top, shoot over the top, and Shea was spectacular. He was 12 of 22 tonight, still had 8 assists and 6 rebounds. The guy is really good. But Jalen Williams, struggling mightily in this series, shot 6 of 13 tonight as well, and Chet Holmgren not making the open threes. I feel like that's been killer for the Thunder in this series. I could go on for a bit longer, but I do want to touch on Celtics Cavs really quick, because that series is over, and yes, I know it was a little bit dramatic when the Celtics lost Game 2 at home, continuing their weird playoff record at home over the last 3 years, but they took care of business. Kind of a thud, an all of a sudden thud to the Cavaliers season and how it ended. Donovan Mitchell out, no Karis LeVert, Jarrett Allen out again, and Boston, was a little bit hairy in the first half, but they took care of business eventually. Really, really, really tough series for Darius Garland. I'm not even going to talk about the Celtics, because I think they are beating whoever's coming out of the Knicks-Pacers series pretty easily. I know the Knicks could give them a series, but I do wonder when fatigue is going to set in for that team, and the Celtics have no problem going deep into their rotation. But anyway, let's go back to the Cavs, because there is going to be a lot of shit happening this summer, it sounds like. You already got a bunch of scuttlebutt coming out of Cleveland, and let me just tell you, I'm not surprised at all that a lot of this scuttlebutt has been coming out now. Shams Charania and Joe Varden of The Athletic already dropped a mega piece about, the turmoil with JB Bickerstaff and Kobe Altman having a little tit for tat with JB Bickerstaff, players losing faith in him. Garland apparently could request a trade, or rival executives expect him to request a trade if Cleveland does extend Donovan Mitchell this summer. Just a lot of stuff that, one, I am not surprised is coming out, but also really interesting that this is coming out immediately after a second round 5-game flameout. And the Cavaliers have to do some soul searching, because, one, Darius Garland did not play well in these playoffs. Let's just call it what it is. and Cavs fans have been frustrated with Darius Garland. I do want to give Darius Garland grace because he was injured a lot this year, and for like the second season in a row, he keeps getting hit in the fucking face, and he got hit in the face, I feel like, every game of this playoff run. Like, no joke. But the numbers, 16 a game on 44% shooting, weird stretches where you're not aggressive looking for your shot, or you're just making bad decisions, or, you know, just lazy turnovers, getting hunted on the defensive end. Just too many times, especially in that Orlando series where he was just taken out, and even in game 6 of that Orlando series, Darius Garland, he started off well, but just faded down the stretch, made some bad decisions. Donovan Mitchell was literally the only scoring option left in the fourth quarter. Just a bad series from Darius Garland, and that contract situation gets very interesting, especially when you're talking about how do the Cavs move forward from here, shaping their team. From what Adrian Wojnarowski reported, which was, let me pull this up really quickly. He tweeted, after an Eastern Conference semifinal loss to the Celtics with a shorthanded lineup, and Woj just loves to fucking put a story into his tweets, the Cavaliers will plan to take time to evaluate Coach J.B. Bickerstaff's future, but the organization remains fond of him and marketplace is sparse of proven candidates. There will be a lot of conversations on different ways to proceed for a franchise that reached the Eastern semis for the first time since 2018. So the Cavs are planning to take time to evaluate J.B. Bickerstaff's future after reaching the East semis for the first time since 2018, and I venture to gander for the first time in any non-LeBron James season in a very long time. And you're going to mull that future over? Yeah, J.B. Bickerstaff's gone. And I also wonder, this series with Jared Allen's injury, there was a lot of stuff I liked from Mobley, especially later on in this series, the last 2 games, especially the last 3 games with Mobley at the 5. I mentioned that the Cavs started leaning into Mobley more, being a hub, dribble handoffs, getting more involved in the pick and roll action, cutting, and then he's defending all over the court. I really do think, and look, fan bases get sensitive when they have a perceived core that's together, but then you have some questions or people from the outside question the roster construction. And I have been more on the optimist side of the Mobley-Allen frontcourt. I'm at the point now, and I have kind of been leaning this way for a bit because I am a fan of Mobley. I would start prioritizing Evan Mobley at the 5. I would not give up on Darius Garland just yet, and I would try to keep Donovan Mitchell, obviously. Offensive superstar, or just a superstar period, just the way he performs in the playoffs and stuff, and the way he's just fearless and playing through injury, and his skill set, his offensive skill set, you gotta keep that dude. But if you're talking about prioritizing the center position, Mobley has to be at the forefront of it. I was very encouraged by what I saw in this series. He was rebounding well, he was playmaking well. Tonight was just an awesome game from Mobley. 33, 7, and 4, and the Celtics legitimately could not stop him because there would be switches, or Mobley would cut off the ball, Darius Garland would find him on the pick and roll, or, you know, the Steve Nash dribble, keep the dribble alive on the baseline, find Mobley cutting to the basket. He was just used everywhere on the court tonight, and I think the Cavaliers finally got the vision of what this all looks like with Evan Mobley at the 5. By the way, shout out Marcus Morris Sr., played really well tonight, was on fire tonight, and, you know, was not a complete sieve defensively. But the Cavs were just snake bitten by injuries, man. And Dean Wade coming back in the middle of this series, I imagine that just wasn't good for his rhythm either. The Cavaliers have a lot of decisions to make, and with the stuff just immediately dropping after a series loss, it sounds like some changes are going to happen this summer. But Celtics should have won this series. They won it in 5, like I said they would. Honestly, I thought they could have swept them, but it is what it is. The Celtics are still rolling through, and looks like that Nuggets-Celtics finals is heading for a crash course.